Greetings, folks. Today is Tuesday, May 7th, 2019. My name is Tom Lineweaver, and this is my commentary. Okay. I have been having commentaries about Tulsi Gabbard. And I've been accused of not knowing anything about her. So I've been researching her, and I had something else planned for today. I was going to do a commentary on forced vaccinations, but this came up. When I got on YouTube, this video was recommended for me. They do that a lot. Anyway, okay. Now, she said, in this particular interview, she said a lot I agree with. What she says about war, what she says about regime change, and the costliness of these wars, going into the trillions of dollars. I agree with her on her stance about war. I agree with her that, war is a horrible thing, but sometimes it is necessary. Like, for example, if we are attacked, war becomes necessary. Alright? I think she didn't come out and say that, but I think that's probably her thinking on that. Now, everything else she said. She talked about Medicare for everybody. Well, who's going to pay for that? I mean, she talked, one of the things I heard mentioned was universal education. Who's going to pay for that? Anyway, so besides all this war talk, which I agree with, she's a typical liberal Democrat, which I don't agree with. And of course, she changed her mind on a very important issue, traditional marriage. They didn't talk about that at all in this interview. But much of what she said about war, I agree with. The only thing is, I'm not certain she understands why those wars have been fought. Not necessarily regime change. And I'm going to share with you a documentary that all wars are bankers' wars. And, take note that before we went to Afghanistan, Afghanistan did not have a central bank. They do now. Before we went to Iraq, Saddam Hussein has nationalized his banking system, and everything else, oil, everything, was nationalized, meaning it was all for Iraq, which was good for the people of Iraq. Well, no more central bank, no more privately owned central bank in Iraq. That is why we went to Iraq. Once Saddam Hussein was gone, the central bank, that is, the Federal Reserve is part of a banking system, a global banking system. Alright? Iraq, the banking system in Iraq was nationalized. It was not globalized. And that is why we went to Iraq. Now, Iraq has a central bank that's globalized. And as of now, there's only a handful of countries out there that do not have a globalized central bank. North Korea is one of them. Iran is another one. Syria is another one. And recently we've been talking about Venezuela. That's another one. No global central bank. That's why we have a problem with what's his name? The president that's been elected in Venezuela. That's why we don't like him, because he doesn't want a global central bank in his country. That's why we're supporting the guy that wants to be president, because he would probably allow for a global central bank in Venezuela. North Korea, Iran. I mean, this is the true reason why we're going to wars with all these people, not to mention Israel. Well, Israel, the whole thing is connected between the global central bank. The same people that have these global central banks also took Israel. And so you might say that's almost their headquarters. Actually, their headquarters is actually in Switzerland. But anyway, that's what you can hear on another video that I'm going to give you about all wars are bankers' wars. Now, I already knew a lot of what that documentary says, but it's nice to have it in a one documentary that says these things. I wonder if she made a couple statements that made me think that maybe she just might understand this. When she talks about the toppling of Muammar Gaddafi, the toppling of Saddam Hussein, when she talked about that made me think that maybe, just maybe, she knows why these wars are being fought. I don't know. She didn't come out and say it. She didn't come out and talk about Israel either. And so I don't know what her thinking is about Israel. But the fact is, Israel is a part of the global banking system that now enslaves much of the world. This Federal Reserve is a private bank. It's a global bank. And it's basically ruining our economy. We want to fix the economy. We've got to get rid of the Federal Reserve. President Kennedy tried to fight the Federal Reserve, and we know what happened to him. And there's speculation that the bankers had him killed. It wouldn't surprise me. But he was also not a fan of Israel. So, they had him killed. Lyndon Johnson, on the other hand, was a fan of Israel. So, and probably the global banking system. So, Syria, as far as I know, still does not have a global central bank. That's why we're attacking Syria. That's why we're trying to topple Assad's regime. Not because, everything that they said about the guy was a lie. And I appreciate the fact that she actually went to see Assad. Okay. Now, if that was all there is about her, I'll tell you what, we need a president that understands what she understands about war. And the fact is, she was in there. In this understanding of war, she reminds me of Kennedy. Kennedy. Remember what was it called? The PT-109? There was a movie about that. Kennedy understood the cost of war, and he tried to stay out of it. He tried to stay out of Vietnam, but, you know. So, but everything else, she's a typical liberal Democrat. I mean, if she's president, there's going to be so much spending that's going to continue to downfall our economy. So, you know, the fact that she wants to do all that spending tells me that maybe she's part of the problem. Maybe she wants to keep the global bank happy by doing all the spending that she's planning. You know, the more spending we do, the more wealthy those globalists become. So, I don't know. I've got mixed emotions about her. Well, I don't have mixed emotions. I don't want her to be president. But I would like to see a president that understands what she understands about war. About the only other one that could understand that. First of all, I don't know who's all running. I don't know if we're going to get a Republican that understands it. I don't know if there's another Democrat that understands it. But if I were president, I understand it. Now, but like I said, everything else is typical liberal Democrat stuff. And the fact, of course, that she changed her mind on traditional marriage. I mean, this was a big part of her life at one time. How could she change her mind so fully like that? I don't understand that. Did she really change her mind? Or is it something she's saying for political purposes? I don't know. But either way, there's no way I would like to see her as president. Now, understanding war as she does, and understanding foreign policy as she does, I would probably agree with her foreign policy. But that's about the only thing I agree with. Now, she might be, and if I were president, I would consider her to be my Secretary of State. I think she would be good in that role. So, but I don't, everything else, like I said, everything else is just a liberal Democrat. And that's why she cannot become president of the United States. Now, I would hope that Republicans would challenge Donald Trump with a good candidate. I gave my opinion about what the best candidates Republican ticket would be. Rand Paul and Justin Amash. I think that would be a good ticket for the Republicans. But then again, that's not going to happen because Israel is in control. And Donald Trump is probably the most pro-Israel president we've had since Lyndon Johnson. Although they were all pretty much pro-Israel since Kennedy. So, anyway. Now, do I know enough about Tulsi Gabbard now? I mean, I've been researching this gal ever since she decided to run for president. And yet there are people... Now, see, in my commentary about why she should not be president of the United States, I only responded to one or two things. even though, and everything in this interview I've heard before. I just didn't respond to those issues. So I'm responding to them now. Universal education, she doesn't care about the Constitution. Okay? And there was a part of this interview where she said she took an oath to basically protect this country. That's not the oath you took, lady. You took an oath to support and defend the Constitution. And by the way, if you don't believe me, just go to Google and look up military oath. Alright? And you will find they pretty much make the same oath that they do in Congress. Now, of course, there are several. There are oaths for officers, there's oaths for privates, whatever. But basically, they take an oath to support and defend the Constitution. Okay? If only the military would stand up in support of that Constitution and do things right. But we're probably not going to see that anytime soon, because probably the generals and the admirals and there are part of the globalist way of doing things. So anyway, but when you look at the Trump administration, they're globalist, every one of them. So, all right. They're not putting America first. If you think they are, you're wrong. And I'm not sure whether she could put America first or not. But she would take an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. But when you hear all the programs that she wants, you know she's not going to do that. First of all, education is unconstitutional. There shouldn't be a Department of Education. There shouldn't be education spending. There shouldn't be anything regarding education. What about infrastructure? Where does the Constitution say that the federal government should take care of infrastructure? All these things that she talks about should be in the purview of the states because of the 10th Amendment. Now, there's one other thing that I appreciate. She went to North Dakota. She stood with the people, the Native American people, that were standing against a pipeline going through their land. And she went there and stood with them. I appreciate that. I really do. So, there's two things that I appreciate about her. And they spent a lot of time talking about her views on war. And I agree with her on her views of war. But like I said, in every other way, she's just a liberal Democrat, and I can't support that. Okay. So I'm not this while I'm putting this on YouTube. I'm not going to share it from YouTube to Facebook, Twitter, and a bunch of other places, because it's going to be a part of a presentation I put on one of my Pro Boards sites. And that will then go to Facebook and Twitter and wherever else. I want people to see the video at the same place. If only YouTube would allow the I can put the link there and you can see it, you can go to it, but you can't post the video itself. Okay? And that's what I plan on doing at one of my Pro Board sites. Okay. One of these days I'm going to get to that forced vaccination, probably tomorrow, maybe tonight during the night shift. I don't know. But that's my view on Tulsi Gabbard. And while I agree with what she says about war, in every way else, she's just a typical liberal Democrat. And this country cannot withstand more spending. We've got to cut spending. Donald Trump, he gave us a kind of a modest tax cut. All right? But the spending skyrocketed. He wants to spend money on the wall. He wants to spend money, various different places. And so spending went up during Trump while taxes went down. That means we've simply got to borrow more money from somewhere. And he's doing it on the backs of people on Social Security. And I don't have to tell you that. If you're on Social Security, you probably already know about it. He's doing it on the backs of poor people, cutting food stamps, cutting housing, and cutting Medicare. Anyway, now, I don't have a problem with those things, except he's not doing it with compassion. There's a way of doing those things as if you have compassion. But Donald Trump doesn't have a compassionate cell in his body. And he proves it over and over again. Okay, I'm way past. Like I said, I've designed these things to be 5 minutes long, and there's not too many of them that are 5 minutes. We're at 22 minutes and counting. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's my commentary for today. Let's see what the Gabbard supporters say about this. Okay. Thank you, folks, for kindly dropping in. Hope to see you next time. Bye.